us more about yourself, Dani, and welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. So my journey started about over 16 years ago, my own fat-free diet, overweight, doing, too much working out. And I was looking for something different, something new, tired of the yo-yo dieting. And I just needed a change and knew that at the time when I was in my 20s feeling like that, I would never make it. I mean, I was wondering how I would make it feeling the way I did in my 20s to my 40s, and now I'm approaching, my birthday's in a few weeks after actually approaching 47. So it just sent me on a path looking for something different. I tried, went low carb, keto, and then eventually carnivore. And in that time frame, knew that I couldn't have been the only woman struggling with various different symptoms for, from hormone issues to excessive hunger and cravings and digestive issues. And just felt like, my calling was to help other women. Once I figured it out for myself, was to help others figure out that if somebody told them that their blood work was normal, that it still didn't mean that they were optimal. And so that's really what I, in a nutshell, what I focus on, and looking at hormones and digestive issues and just rebalancing the body from the inside out with a food first approach.
Well, maybe you could tell us a little bit about what it is to be a holistic functional nutritional practitioner.
Yeah, absolutely. So that basically means that I use functional testing with hormones and looking for digestive imbalances, nutrient deficiencies, and really focus on rebalancing the body from the inside out. So I'm looking for, testing adrenal hormones and sex hormones, and looking at different digestive deficiencies and microbiome issues, and just looking for the best way for that individual person to focus on rebalancing their biochemistry and getting them to the most optimal health.
And for yourself, you've had some nutritional changes through the years, some aha moments. How has that affected your practice of what you do?
So, I mean, I feel like my own experience is the best experience to be working with clients who have experienced the same thing, the same trials and tribulations, the same bumps in the road. So that's really where I kind of look at my own experience and, different areas of my own hormone imbalances, my own digestive issues. I had issues, if, you don't mind me saying, I had issues with breast implants that started around 2012, soon after I got those. And that all of the things that I experienced over the years kept on leading me to looking for more answers and looking for more answers. So while I started in practice, over 16 years ago, with my own journey starting, 17-ish years ago, as time went on along the way, I just learned more about myself and was able to learn more about clients and dive in deeper in different areas, and just, have that journey continue both personally and professionally.
Is there something about being a naturopath, that a functional nutritional practitioner, that kind of helps you see something different than Western medicine?
I mean, I feel like
Is
it.
focused at, yeah.
I
Well,
feel
I think the same thing, because we're not taught about the causes of disease or the whole.
Right.
We're talking about how to differentiate, how to diagnose a disease, and
Sure.
then what are the treatments. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about, how you approach someone who has migraines or PMS or mood disorders and gut disorders. How do you kind of come to that questions and coming up with the answers that are going to give you something that you can hone in on a better treatment?
Yeah. So, I mean, I do ask, a lot of questions to clients and get a lot of information at their intake, so to speak, as far as what they're going through, what their history looked like, history of both symptoms, but also history of emotional experiences and stressors and things of that nature. Because a lot of times, most of the time, there's some type of stressful event that happens. And then all of a sudden, they have all these symptoms that cascade after that, something or other. I mean, grief and divorce and major life issues are very common to see things sort of escalate after those things occur. But really, I'm looking for the root cause. So even if someone comes to me with a diagnosis, let's say, I don't work from a diagnosis. I think that people can still have a diagnosis and their lab work can present differently. Their markers can look different. So I'm looking at each individual person, yes, with their symptoms, but also looking at how things show up on lab work and looking to kind of, take an approach from rebalancing things that are going on and not really worry so much about, a diagnosis or that type of thing, because I'm not looking to cure them. I'm looking just to help them rebalance their body so they can feel better on a daily basis.
What would you say are the important things to sort of focus on as the imbalances, that whether it's the lifestyle, nutrition, genetic history, propensities because of your genes, and how would you look at that, and how would you sort of treat those particular areas?
Yeah, so I operate from like a food first approach with everything. So even when there's lab testing involved, it's always food first. It's always cleaning up their diet. Some people are coming to me, already carnivore for a year and still having some struggles that they're trying to find the answers to. And I have other clients that come to me, maybe they've tried a low carb version of a diet, but they're really not sure what the best next steps are. So my approach, again, food first, always dialing in the food, making sure they get enough protein, get enough fat, eat enough overall, because how many women out there are, have a history of yo-yo dieting and under eating that has led to their hormone issues to begin with. And then kind of building on that foundation to then look at, okay, once they fix their food, once they are getting adequate nutrition, the right animal-based, protein and fat in the right amount, then see how that transpires as far as how they feel better, and then work from there with any further symptoms and imbalances that they might have.
Any particular direction to ketovore, carnivore, fasting? You said focus on protein and fat. How many? You probably see most of your clients also are not in the keto or carnivore space when they arrive, I imagine. And how do you sort of focus on giving them some direction there?
Yeah, so actually I would say 90% or more of my clients are already keto or carnivore when they come to
Okay,
me.
cool.
Yeah, I would say 10 years ago that wasn't the case. But now absolutely. And then as far as, which direction, I really look at what's happening with them. So if someone comes to me with significant autoimmune issues and food intolerances and digestive issues and, a whole long list of things, then definitely looking at carnivore. If they feel like that carnivore isn't sustainable, then I'll look at carnivore as an elimination, the best type of elimination diet. And the goal is to get them to a place where they could add a few foods back if they so chose to do so. But a lot of my clients do feel like carnivore is sustainable, and they just want to work through the underlying imbalances that they haven't had resolution to just yet. And then, of course, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then of course, there are definitely clients who are, falling more on the ketovore spectrum, who may not need to go full carnivore. And they're happy with not going full carnivore, but we still work through the hormone issues and digestive testing and things like that to help them get a better balance for what's going on for them.
What's your thoughts on the cause of most of those digestive and hormonal and likely even emotional issues? Are you in the belief that it's all the gut started?
Yeah, so I do believe that, a lot of even the hormone issues start with, are rooted in the gut, so to speak. I think a lot of that just comes from poor digestion, but poor digestion. Let me start over. So I think a lot of that comes from poor dietary choices for many years. I think a lot of it comes from yo-yo dieting combined with fake foods, processed foods, 0 point foods, so to speak, on these various different, weight loss programs. I think it also can stem from under eating, and so just under eating just perpetuates the hormones and poor digestion. And then of course there's the emotional trauma of people not wanting to deal with emotions and going through tough times and stuffing emotions and not realizing that can cause digestive issues, which is definitely not a popular opinion that people want to look for, because they just want the outside answer rather than having to deal with the stuff on the inside.
And I think that's a good point. The inside is what's going on in the mind and the gut, essentially.
Mhm.
And so what comes in kind of goes out, and it's either expressed in health or ill health.
Yeah, and I
And
think on the topic of internal gut, this is often overlooked is our skin. And so a lot of, especially within carnivore, we see so much eczema, psoriasis, rashes, hives, all these sort of skin issues. I like to say the external skin is like the internal gut, right? So if we
the
heal the gut
reflection
on
of,
the inside, exactly, exactly. Complete
yeah,
reflection of what's going
I
on
think that's something very interesting we don't think about. The gut mucosa is just inside skin, and it
inside.
has its exposure just like our outside skin has our exposure, but in reality what's happening inside the gut is sort of exuding out in our skin. And we just I mean, through my traditional training, it was never a conversation of
Right.
the possibilities of our diet being the leading. Interesting, the American College of OBGYN came out with a expert opinion on diet last year. The leading diet was they recommended was Mediterranean, and they even recommended red wine for pregnant and lactating women. And there was mostly fruits and vegetables, seeds and nuts, um, lean meat, but no red meat, which is kind of very
Right.
interesting approach. And they're still saying diet doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, I have experience with a handful of clients and helping them with fertility from infertility and getting pregnant. And I promise you that they were eating, they added more red meat, more butter, less veggies, less nuts and seeds, maybe some, let's say coconut oil, more keto oils. But for the most part, completely animal based, approach from whatever they were doing previously.
Are most of your clients now all online? Are you still seeing any clients face to face?
I don't. I actually moved my practice completely online back in 2015.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
prior to the world exploding a few years ago, I moved everyone online in 2015. So that just allowed me to streamline things a little more. It was kind of a distraction to have people coming to my office, and then I was seeing clients online at the same time. So it just made more sense to have everyone, one way. And the other thing that I was finding, which was interesting and had a big reason, or was a big reason why I transitioned as well, is that a lot of my local clients were driving 45 minutes to an hour one way to meet with me. But
Yeah.
then they were saying that they didn't have time to go for walks, work out, or go grocery shopping. So I told them that the good news is that they can now take the time that they were spending on a weekly basis to come meet with me, which was almost 2 hours in each direction, and they can go move their body, get some sunlight, and go shopping for fresh food. It was a total win.
So I'm assuming you would also say that the conversion to online work is really the very best. Gives it a good balance. We see people and listen to people as if they're right in front of us. The brain doesn't know much of a difference, and I think it
Right.
works pretty nicely.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it gives me the opportunity to work with clients all over the world that I obviously wouldn't have the opportunity to work with otherwise. So.
Yeah, that's why I love this online work. It's been really fascinating, and the podcasting and blogging is really a lot of fun. And I meet so many new and amazing people that I interviewed Martin from Australia yesterday. I've had people from Europe and all over the globe, and that's the fun, amazing part. Can you talk to us a little bit about your thoughts on fasting and either windows of fasting and time restricted eating and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love this question. I love this topic. I believe that fasting is an amazing tool. My approach to fasting is maybe a little different than some out there. My approach to fasting is what I call fueling before fasting. And that essentially means making sure that someone has what they're doing in their eating window correct before they start extending their fasting window. So because I have a practice and mainly women, I do work with some men, but majority of women who have a huge history with yo-yo dieting and under eating, I don't want them to start right away with fasting because that just perpetuates their history of under eating. So I want to get them, eating the right amount of food, eating the right amount of protein, the right amount of fat, the right amount of, overall energy or calories. And then once things are a little bit more balanced and they're feeling a little bit better with their consumption of food in their eating window, then look at, starting with intermittent fasting and then going from there as far as what is right for that person with the, call it time restricted eating or, intermittent fasting windows, that kind of thing.
Would you recommend 2 to 3 day fasting of any or longer? Do you think that has any value for people?
I think for some people it definitely does. I did some let's say 48 to, yeah, so 2 to 3 days. I was going to say 48 to 60 for me. I did some 48 to 60 hour fasts. It's been a while, to be truthfully honest with you. I just don't feel like for me right now, that is what my body needs. And I think that just in general, I think that some people do really well with those types of extended fasting. And then others, perhaps with maybe some eating disorder background or other, under eating history, it might not be the best approach. So I always want someone, whether they're going to do a 2 to 3 day fast or an 18-hour fast or an OMAD or whatever fasting schedule they're going to choose, I want them to feel good about it. I want them to feel like they can mentally handle it, that it's not going to be challenging for them, that it's going to be supportive to them and their goals, because that mindset piece that we were talking about earlier, like that's what's going to help make that fast, and that approach to whatever their goals are effective. So if they're, completely behind it and feeling like it's something that is going to be good for them, then I'm all for it. If they feel like it's going to cause more stress, we're already dealing with stress hormones and stressed out gut and things like that, then that's where I feel like it doesn't serve someone to do something that's going to cause more stress.
Yeah. So if you're used to a 3 times a day eating, changing to keto carnivore has much more value than necessarily doing only one meal a day or time restricted.
Yeah, yeah, I think a lot of people get a lot of benefit from just changing their food to start with, and then in time, once they get to a point where they feel like, okay, I'm ready to take it to the next level, figuring out if that next level is more of extended fasting or intermittent fasting, and then kind of going from there.
The word diet, it's just such a
Mhm.
bad word. And I always say
Die
diet. So
dash
di- right, diet.
die
Yes. Say that again.
dash
Yeah, die dash. And,
die.
and so yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about your thoughts on this word diet and how do you think about it and what do you think our uh, clients think about it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to unpack here. So, I personally don't, I try not to use the word diet, overall. I think that I've been on so many diets that I don't, I don't think of this as a diet anymore. This is the way that I eat. This is the way that I live. This is how we are now. So that being said, I know that a lot of people out there relate to being on the keto diet or on the carnivore diet, or they're going to try the carnivore diet. And I think that's okay. But I truly believe in getting to a place beyond the diet aspect of it, where it does come naturally, where they feel freedom versus restriction. And they just see this as what they do, whether it's keto, whether it's carnivore, whether it's something in between. I think that, it's cliche, to say, oh, it's a lifestyle, but I just feel like looking at the freedom aspect of that makes it way more than just a lifestyle. And I can also, I think it was this morning, I was either commenting on, I was sending him one of my I have a group, Facebook group, a Facebook weight loss program. And I was sharing someone had commented about restriction versus freedom with carnivore and moving more towards that space of freedom. And I can definitely relate to kind of in the beginning of eating this way, feeling a little bit more restricted. But as time goes on, I would encourage people, if they are feeling like this is a little bit restricted, I would encourage them to just keep going and eventually get to the point where it does feel more freeing and more freedom than anything else.
Much more variety than people understand, because it's
Yeah.
basically all animal based, and you
I
can
mean,
get there.
I only wish I could trade all of the chicken breast I ate 20 years ago for
Yeah,
ribeye.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's not a ribeye in a chicken, unfortunately. Well, so tell us a little bit about your eating habits. What's your day to day food intake?
Yeah, so let's see. So mornings, I will do a combination. I like to do pork belly in the morning. I also ride horses, so I have to do a little bit of a lighter breakfast, so to speak. So I use the beef protein. I will mix that with Greek yogurt, with ricotta cheese, with something animal based. Sometimes I'll just mix it with hot water and butter and have a drink that I drink before I ride my horses. Lunch usually consists of turkey or seafood, and then dinner, sometimes beef. And then dinner for me is always seafood, beef, or pork.
And coffee and tea. What are your thoughts?
Tea I don't drink. Yeah, tea I don't drink. Coffee, you'll probably laugh. I drink about a teaspoon in a shot of water as my pre workout with my electrolytes before I work out in the mornings.
Okay, okay. Just because you love
Literally a
it, it's like it's that one little. It's that.
just a
It's not a
little,
shot. It's a drop.
yeah, it's literally a drop.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. Alcohol. What are your thoughts on
None.
alcohol? It's
I
a
don't drink
poison.
any. Yeah, I don't care for it. I don't like the taste. I think it is poison. Um, I have a hard time telling clients they can moderate it, quite frankly. Um, so for me, it's a hard no, and it has been for many years.
How do clients? Are you having clients that are just sort of sticking to a little bit of it, and just those are the little things that, okay, you're not getting completely better. Coffee, tea, alcohol, maybe some things you have to completely eliminate.
Yeah. So initially, alcohol for me, when a client first starts, I really encourage them to get off of it for a minimum of 90 days, and then kind of go from there. As far as tea and coffee, uh, I look at how much they're consuming and what else they're consuming. So, for example, if someone comes to me and let's just say still on SAD, and they're drinking coffee, I don't really care about the coffee as much as I care about getting rid of all the other sad food. If they're coming to me on carnivore and they're still drinking, and this happens, they're
Mhm.
drinking 3 to 7 cups of coffee a day. We're discussing reducing it, down to 1 cup is usually like my first step, and then kind of going from there. So I have a little bit more of a gradual approach belief for the most part overall. But I also believe in compliance. And so for some people, just having them quit coffee cold turkey, they don't want to do that. And I would rather have someone comply with drinking 1 cup and maybe reducing half calf and half, a clean decaf. I'm okay with that if we're changing everything else, and kind of moving along the way towards, let's see if is it the cream in your coffee or everything you're putting in your coffee that's a problem, or is it the actual coffee? So I realize I might have more of like a, gradual approach to that, but I find that it works for a lot of people.
Can you talk a little bit about hormonal imbalance and what's your definition? How do you approach it? Uh, and what type of things might you measure to get a better handle on it?
Sure. Sure. So I definitely look at symptoms to begin with, because I think that, hormone imbalances breed a lot of symptoms, as you
Yeah.
probably well know. Everything from, cravings, excessive hunger, to PMS, to hot flashes, night sweats, anxiety, depression. And then from there, energy issues, energy crashes in the afternoon, things like that. And from there, I usually evaluate hormone levels via hormone testing. And then always, food first, making sure they're eating enough protein and fat, making sure their fasting schedule is aligned with whatever their hormone balances or imbalances are. And then, looking at therapeutic type protocols if need be. A lot of people ask me, I know you didn't ask me yet, but I'll just say it anyways. A lot of people ask me my thoughts on like bioidentical or like hormone therapy, bioidentical hormone therapy, or even just any hormone therapy. And I kind of have a middle ground opinion on that. So I don't think anyone should go straight to any kind of hormone therapy to start with. I think that the diet has to be approached, the lifestyle, how much someone's eating, their sleep, all of that has to be optimized first. Looking at their gut, what's going on with their gut health, and then address the hormones. And if none of that, they're still, after doing all those things, if they're still having symptoms, making sure you've basically unturned all of those stones before someone goes down the road of bioidentical type hormone therapy. I don't necessarily, again, I don't have a problem with it, but I think there's a lot that can be done before someone just goes that route. And I will say that the clients that I have that come to me on hormone therapy to start with are the hardest cases.
The withdrawal, the crutch, the thing that's easy.
Yeah. Well, they also haven't addressed a lot of the other imbalances first. So they're, going, I always call it like when you just go on hormone therapy and go to the bottom of that chain, and try to put a Band-Aid on it, you're not fixing everything that was on the top. You got to fix all the stuff on the top for the stuff on the bottom to work.
It's interesting. I recently I went on a 5-day fast. I tested my glucose level, which was 52, and I felt fine. But in the midst of that, I said, hey, throw on I have a lab. So I said, throw in my testosterone and my TSH and my vitamin D. My testosterone was low. My vitamin D was low. My thyroid was fine. Yet I had no symptoms and I felt fine. And it was kind of an interesting one because I'm wondering how one of the problems is, so many people are now on carnivore, but their cholesterol's high, or their LDLs, they're all out of whack. And I wonder if sometimes many of the diagnostic testing can also be conflicting with our diseases and how we label them, and then how we treat them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's why I always like to look at the lab work in the context of the person, right, what their symptoms are, what their complaints are, what was their previous diet, what's their current diet, even if it's, currently carnivore, how long have they been doing that? What exactly were they doing before that? Like so many, as you well know, so many of those things play a big role in a lot of that, those blood markers and that kind of thing.
Can you talk a little bit about exercise and your thoughts on exercise?
So former exercise addict, former cardio addict, I should say. When I was 65 pounds overweight on a fat-free diet, I would do anywhere from 1 to 2.5 hour spin classes because I thought that that's how I was going to lose weight. And all I did was mess up my adrenals, mess up my cortisol, and mess up all the hormones that are connected to my adrenals and cortisol, thyroid, and sex hormones. So it was definitely a shift for me personally. I'll just, if you don't mind me saying, it was a shift for me personally to kind of go from that mentality of burn more calories doing cardio to do some resistance training, work on building muscle, improve your metabolism, improve your hormone balance, and don't worry so much about the calorie burn that you get in a 2-hour spin class because it's, not really doing anything. It kind of got, sent me down the wrong direction. So I'm a huge proponent, that all to say, I'm a huge proponent of movement. I'm a huge proponent of exercise. I'm a huge proponent of resistance training. Most importantly, doing things that you love. So Getting outside, getting in the sun. I ride horses. It's my, true passion. I'm lucky that my true passion is also very physical, very physical as well.
Yes.
And for clients, especially for weight loss cases, I would rather see them increase their, I want them to increase their movement before trying to decrease their food. So increase movement, move more, walk more, lift more weights before you try to reduce your caloric intake.
Would you agree that so many people will change their diet to carnivore, they get moving, and in just 2 to 4 weeks, they feel better, even though they have lost little to no weight?
100%.
I've always said that being fat's not the cause of disease. It's just a sign you likely have been a standard eater and following the excessive cardio and not doing the things that you love to do in life. Dr. Rob Kiltz, another beautiful, spectacular day. And I just want to send thanks to all of those for watching the newest episode of Carnivore Conversations. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, and other streaming platforms to gain access to the full 1-hour episode